Welcome back to the Point of Order podcast, an inside look at California politics in the state legislature. I'm your host, Assemblyman Josh Hoover, and very excited to have on the program with us today Leticia Castillo from Assembly District 58, which is Riverside, San Bernardino counties, correct? Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me on today. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. And I really look forward to, we've been meeting with a lot of the new class of legislators, trying to introduce them to everybody and, let everyone know all these new people coming in, which is exciting.
Right.
So why don't we just start off with some questions about you? Why don't you tell us a little more about yourself and your background?
So a little bit about me. My background is mental health. I'm a dual licensed psychotherapist, so I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and a licensed professional clinical counselor. Prior to being in this role, I worked for the County of Riverside Department of Mental Health with the severe persistent mental health from all challenges with adults, children, legal issues, substance issues. I was 5150 certified, so I'd put people on involuntary holds. And kids, I'm trauma trained, so I worked with kids through their stages of trauma, and adults straight out from prison into my office to do assessments, and then worked with the homeless population as well, the ones that had the most contact with law enforcement, and trying to see what is the issue. Is it mental health services you need?
Yeah.
Is it substance use treatment? Is it housing? Like, what are the issues that are needed there? So that's what I did prior to, and now I'm here.
So what you saw a lot then from the kind of the other side of things, right? Now we're on the policy side, talking about homelessness, talking about all these things. But what was your experience with, how California is managing its homelessness crisis, for example, or its drug abuse crisis?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that don't work. I worked in it firsthand, and so my goal up here also is to work with in human services and in that field. My previous supervisor, who was a psychiatrist, and we worked together in two different programs, and we know what is needed in that mental health field. So I tapped him on the shoulder before I left. That's when I told him what I was going to do. And he says, "You're the perfect person for this." And I said, well, once I get there, I'm going to come back and we're going to work on some legislation because you and I know what is needed. And he goes, all right, I'm up for it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I think it's really important because I feel like so many of the policymakers don't really know exactly what the solutions are, right? Tell us a little bit about your district.
So District 58, it covers all of Jurupa Valley, all of Grand Terrace, which is in San Bernardino County, and then portions of Eastvale, Corona, and Riverside, downtown Riverside, and then some of the unincorporated areas of Home Gardens, which is where I'm from, born, raised, still reside, High Grove, and El Cerrito.
That's awesome. Yeah. So you mentioned, you were talking to your colleague about what you were going to go do. So my question for you is, what inspired you to run for office?
Yeah.
And why did you decide, this is something that's really important and what I'm going to try to do? And I'll set the context for that by saying you won an election that most people said, you couldn't win, right? And so there was a lot of those conversations going on. So what made you run for office?
So when something affects you, that's when you kind of pay attention and you want to do change. As far as myself, I've always been the type to say, be the change you want to see. And so when I was sitting on the couch complaining, I thought, why is it like this? Why did they do that? Why don't they do this? And that's when, hold up, be the change you want to see. You're a fighter, go out and do it. This was around 2021, so I got involved around that time, try to find out, where my party meets, and with that, I got involved with the recall, and so I did run in 22. My goal was in 21 was to run in 24, and I thought by then I will know some of the language of the profession. I'll know how to run for office, because at that point, I really just didn't even know about running for office or anything.
Basics, right? Yeah.
I worked the elections, and I thought, okay, I'm doing my duty. But then I got that urge where I'm like, okay, this is not enough. There's these crazy laws being passed, and it's going to affect my grandkids, and I'm like, I got to figure something out. So with that, I got involved in 22. I ran in 22, didn't make the primary, but what I did is I shifted gears at that point and I helped everyone else. I always tell Brian Dolly, I helped you get elected in Riverside County.
I love it.
I pushed him really hard out in Riverside County and all the candidates, and from judges to local school boards, all of that. And that's where I got my vision of being able to go door to door, knock on doors, talk to people. My vision for 24 wouldn't have really came to me had I not helped the other candidates in 22 when I didn't make the primary.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so with that, then I shifted gears. I said in 23, that's when I started just rocking and rolling for 24, started making my plan, going where I needed to be and whatnot, and now here I am.
That's amazing. Wow.
It took me one cycle to figure out how to do it.
That's so incredible. And like so much of your like strategy, right, was to your point based on just talking to people, right? Meeting people where they're at. Yeah. Going to their door, which was a big part of how I think I, came into office as well, kind of in against sort of an opponent that everyone else thought was going to win, So it's just you got to go directly to the doors. Yeah,
for me, I felt talking about values and voting against those values was very effective. In my race, especially when I started the race, it was a 17.27 D plus district.
Wow.
It's currently a 13 D plus district. Wow. So there's a big shift there, and it's continuing to shift. But when I was running, I was telling people, no, don't change your registration. I don't want you to do that yet. I was making sure I want them to think on paper that they're safe. So don't change your registration.
That's a good point.
Yeah, but that was really important, talking about values, talking about, with the heads of households, the issues that they're having, which is affordability, the safe communities, the same issues why I was running. So I was like, okay. And they were like, we want you to go fight for us.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. No, it's really important. So I guess my next question would be, you won the election. You're here now. How is it going for you so far? What are some things you've been working on? And, what's the experience been like?
It's been interesting, to say the least.
That's one way. That's a good way to put it.
It's been interesting. Yeah. I'm the learning type, so I'm learning a whole lot. And, of course, that's going to be a continuous learning experience. But I think for the most part, my very first, whoa, what's going on was our first floor session, which was... when that special session and hearing some of the stuff that our colleague said. And I was like, wow, do they believe this stuff that they're saying? Or, it was just, that was something that was very interesting to me, wow. And so then I thought, wow, what we've been thinking it is up here is even worse, than what we thought. So that has been something of an experience for me. I think picking up on how things work has been not too difficult for me. I understand the process and whatnot, and then you have the staff stuff. There's just so many pieces to it that every piece is really important for me to be successful in this role.
That's awesome. It's really interesting. Sometimes I feel like if the public could, not that anyone would want to do this unless you're up here and you have to do it, right. But if they could just sit on those floor sessions, every floor session. I mean, some of them are really nothing really happens, but some of them, they're just very eye-opening.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Even the most recent debate over the 4th of July resolution, it's we have very different opinions on what America is, and in some cases, that's part of what America is that, we have disagreements, but, I really do think we need core values as Americans. And I worry sometimes that we're losing that.
Yeah. So, I think for myself, what I always go back to what my dad taught us. He was I'm a first generation. My dad came to this country in the late 1950s through the Bracero program. But he, when you go through the steps and the process of being a legal citizen, you go through, the learning of different things, the English language. So my dad always taught us, we preserve our native language, we preserve our culture, but we assimilate. We learn the language of this country, the customs of this country, because this is where we're at. And he always said, this country gave me everything I have. Yeah. This is the greatest country ever.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I think so many, I actually was speaking with some local officials over the weekend, and sort of the topic of how do immigrants view the United States came up, right? And someone that was sort of on the other side said, well, I don't know why immigrants would want to help the country if the country's not helping them. And I said, well, that's interesting because I've spoken with a lot of immigrant families and immigrants in my own family, right, that feel like they could not have accomplished the things they accomplished without America, and they're so grateful. And some of the most patriotic people I know.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think what my dad taught me gets lost if it's not done properly.
Yeah.
You know,
for sure.
You can't teach that if you didn't learn it yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. No, it's interesting too in the thought process that has changed because when my grandma refused to even teach or speak Spanish in the home, like to my mom. My mom actually doesn't speak Spanish because my grandma was like, "No, we're speaking English and we're gonna assimilate and we're gonna become Americans." And that was just something that was really important for her. I kind of wish that she would have.
Then you'd be speaking Spanish now, right?
But it sort of was a different mindset for her, so it was interesting. So let's step away then from business for a second. What are some things you like to do for fun, like hobbies, interests? Like, if you ever get any free time, what do you like to do?
So I'm a runner, so I am a marathoner, and I love running. However, I, fell off a little bit because I was too busy running for office.
Exactly,
I was in the most important race of my life.
Exactly.
And when I have some downtime, I like reading. I like building puzzles. I'm a puzzle builder. I've been building puzzles since I was a kid. And so when I get back to my room after, we go to receptions, I just spend some time building my puzzle.
So what kind of puzzles are we talking? Like, are they big? Or do you like do big ones? 1,000 pieces? Okay, that's awesome.
1,000-piece puzzles, yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
That sounds great. Yeah. What was the most recent puzzle you did?
I just finished one that was the cats, and it was a bunch of cats sitting on a couch.
I love it. That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
I love it. So you've been trying to get me to run the CIM, I think, marathon,
yes.
right?
Yes.
You've been texting all the members,
Yes.
and it starts in my district, which is part of the pressure point for me. Is
see, they can say assembly member out there running
that's
the
right,
race.
yeah, running the CIM. So I think you've got a few people to sign up for that so far.
Did.
So that's exciting.
So we're excited. December 7th, we'll be running.
December 7th. All right, yeah.
Folsom to the Capitol.
I love it. All right, yeah. So I'm still thinking on that one because I am not a runner. That sounds like pretty brutal. But what do you enjoy about running?
I just feel like sometimes I'll just say, okay, I'm going to go for a 3-mile run, and I'll come back 10 miles later and be like, oh, that felt great. It's once you start running, I just feel like you just want to keep going. It's a good way. It's a good stress relief type of experience, and just kind of clears your mind, just out there. And I don't listen to music when I run. I just run.
It's just like you're just in the
zone.
the activity, the zone, the nature, all of that. That's awesome. That's cool. Well, I might have to try it. I feel like everyone works out with music, so that's kind of shocking. But it is probably nice just to be in the moment, right?
Yeah.
Okay, last question, and then we'll get into some stories of the week and get your thoughts on some of those. But summer recess, I know everyone's looking forward to it. We have 1 week left in the legislature before we break for the summer. What do you have any fun plans, or what are you thinking?
I'm just excited that I don't have to fly up to Sacramento for a whole month.
Yeah.
But I am going to Mexico. I'm going to the little town my parents are from. It's called La Magdalena, Michoacan.
Awesome.
So I'll be going there for a week, and that'll be next week on the week of the 20th.
And where in Mexico is that?
It is about 2.5 miles, 2.5 hours. From Guadalajara Airport.
Seriously, wow, that's amazing.
It's a little town, and so every town in Mexico has their fiesta, right?
Yeah.
A different day, different month. Their fiesta, and I can't tell you exactly what the fiesta, the behind it is, but theirs is the 22nd of July.
That's amazing.
And they call it El 22.
That's awesome. That's so exciting. Yeah, my wife's family lived with about an hour from Guadalajara, so that's in Jalisco, right? Yeah. So that was, well, it's another tiny town, right? I mean, there's a lot of tiny towns out there.
A lot, you pass a lot of them.
It's amazing, yeah. So that's really exciting. Well, that sounds wonderful.
Yeah, so I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
And a lot of in-district events. A whole lot of in-district
there you
events.
Go. Yeah, I know. That's the thing. When we go home, we're always busy with a
Very.
lot of things. I'm going to definitely have some of that as well. But definitely looking forward to getting to see my youngest is 11 this year. You know, I've got 2 teenagers now. So my teenagers, they're like not as into hanging out anymore. You know?
Right.
And so I'm thinking my 11-year-old, I've only got a couple summers left where we're going to get to hang out.
Right.
So I'm going to try to hang out with him.
For the ones that are that age, you have to find something individually with just each one.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So for like my 16-year-old, he's really into basketball. So we'll go and do, or just any competitive sort of game, right?
Right.
So we'll go find something like that to do, probably, you know.
Yeah. So that's always important, is to keep something like just you and that one, you and this one, and not always think of as a group.
As a group. Yeah, that's a really good point. And I'm kind of realizing that too, because it's, you know, my daughter she'll play volleyball with me, but she won't just like hang out with everybody, you know?
Right.
It's like, so it'll be fun. So I'm really excited to hang out with the kids a little bit. We're going to actually go to Pismo Beach for a few days too. So we'll see. We usually do that every year, which is fun. But no trips to Mexico for me this summer, maybe in the fall. I don't know. So let's get into some of the stories of the week. The first big one you were a part of, I was a part of, electing Assemblymember Heath Flora as the new Assembly Republican leader starting after this session ends in September, right? What were your thoughts on that whole thing?
It just all happened so fast. I was like, what's going on?
Yeah.
You know, we're going to vote in a week, and then all of a sudden we're voting today. And
yeah. It was
so
crazy.
it was interesting, but, you know, we'll see how things go. I already told him, better listen to me.
Seriously.
And he said,
right?
I will. You know I already do. So
I love that.
Yeah.
You got to tell him that
Yeah.
too. Yeah. Well, and I just was really surprised by James Gallagher, right? Who's been on this program, you know, has been the Republican leader for a while now, is hugely responsible for you and I both being here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he was a huge part in all of that. And so, you know, it's, I had been talking to him for a while about, you know, what was next, and I didn't really get an indication he was leaving this soon, right? So it was kind of surprising and a little sad, honestly. It was funny. He was saying, like, we were all given little comments about his leadership and how great it's been, and he's like, guys, I'm not dead.
Right.
You know? Which I thought was hilarious. So
yeah, it was. I was kind of like, what? I'm looking at him like, what? You can't do this?
I know. And it's just like, but, you know, I think James, you know, he's served as leader for a long time, and I think he feels like this is the right time for him. And I think Heath will be a really solid leader. I mean, Heath himself only has, like, I think 3 years left in the legislature, right? So it'll be interesting to see, you know, how this goes. But I so much respect for Heath and really look forward to working with them in that capacity. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So another thing you and I have, because we are both on the education committee, right? And so some of the stuff that we've been fighting this year, or really debating this year, has been AB 84, which is this charter, you know, bill that really goes after charter schools, as you know. And there's another bill coming to our committee this week, SB, I believe it's 414. That is, I would say, the better version of that bill, right?
Yes.
Where it does address some of the accountability pieces, but, you know, also, you know, doesn't do all the bad things that AB 84 does, right? So, but there was this article in Ed Voice, how despite all this scrutiny and all these bills, charter schools in California, enrollment is still growing in California for charter schools. You know, there have been, a rise of nearly 728,000 students in California, accounting for over 12% of all public schools across 1,280 campuses over the last year. I mean, it's really amazing the growth that we're seeing in this space. I could tell you why I think it's growing, and I'm sure you would agree.
Right.
But despite all of this, charter schools are performing on the dashboard. 16.5% of charter schools are in the highest performance rating, qualifying them for renewal. They're outperforming in a lot of cases traditional public schools. So I think this is why I'm such a strong believer that parents should have this option. But what has been your sort of, experience this year with all these charter school debates and things like that?
Again, I'm going to say it's interesting, but for me, I mean, I'm a big supporter of school choice. And so I just feel like parents should be the ones who determine what their kids learn. And so the charter thing to me, especially even as a mental health professional who worked with children, I saw the kids that didn't function well in the regular public school system, but really thrived in the charter school system or, homeschooling or whatnot. And so to me, to take that away would hurt so many kids, especially the ones that have the most challenges like mental health and other issues. So I just really support charter schools.
Yeah, and I just think, I've got kids. I think I said this on the floor when we were debating AB 84. I've got currently 2 kids enrolled in a charter school and 1 kid enrolled in their neighborhood school. And I think even within families, every kid is different. Every kid has different needs. Schools are going to meet those needs differently, and that's okay, know. And I think the important thing is families have that option. So. It's been really frustrating to watch AB 84 continue to move through, but I'm hopeful that we'll be the Senate will maybe stop that bill.
Maybe.
And I think time will tell, but I think having this counterbalancing bill by Senator Ashby that is, I think, a much more targeted measure is I'm very hopeful that will win out in the end. So we'll see.
Yeah, hopefully so.
Hopefully so. Another big story. We don't have to get too into the details. I know this was a big announcement on from the governor last week, where he's basically reorganizing the housing agency. So as of today, we have the Business Consumer Services and Housing Agency. He made this big announcement last week, which he likes to do. About kind of carving out the housing and homelessness piece of that into its own agency. And he's claiming that this is going to be a huge boon for solving homelessness, right? I would argue that, it's just more bureaucracy. And so I think time will tell on whether it actually does anything for homelessness. But I think homelessness is one of those things that we've really failed on in California. And you can speak to this more directly, too, just in terms of your experience. But do you think, this new bureaucracy is going to be helpful in solving this problem?
No. He's been fixing the homeless issue since 2010, is it?
Yeah.
And it's gotten worse.
Since he was mayor of San Francisco,
I
right?
think the only thing that has happened is that they have found a way to put money in places.
Yeah.
That doesn't help anything, and it makes the issue worse. If you have a lot of nonprofits, there's some good ones, but then there's some that might just take money, and as long as they help one person, I guess they've done what they were supposed to do, and what all happens to the rest of that money? I've worked with the population, so I know that there's a lot of mismanaged spending in that space.
I bet you've seen all kinds of stuff like that. And when we did the audit of homelessness spending, right, a couple years ago now, $24 billion, most of it, people don't even know what it was spent on or what the results were. There's no accountability for those dollars, and it's a huge problem.
Right.
It was funny, Arnold Schwarzenegger, I didn't put it in our notes because he kind of rambled a little bit, but he was on the Theo Von podcast recently, and Theo brought up the $24 billion in homelessness spending, which I thought was cool because that was one of the things that came out of my audit, which was kind of funny. But, that was the Governor Schwarzenegger was like, there's no accountability. I would never trust any of these people to run one of my companies.
Right.
There's no accountability on the dollars, and it's just, in most cases, just wasted. So, which, I know is a huge part of the problem. I'm not sure that this is what's going to solve it. In fact, in the article, even one of our Democratic colleagues, Christopher Cabaldon in the Senate, what was his quote here? He basically just said, this is not, just creating a new agency doesn't fix the problem.
No.
It's the actions that agency takes, right? Or the policies that
Right.
are actually changed. And so I think time will tell on if that actually follows through.
Right.
But so I don't know if you saw this story. I thought my staff loves this article, or loves this bill, I should say. But there's a bill going through Tom Umberg that would require that the ads on Netflix and Hulu, all the streaming services, would have to be the same volume as the TV programs. I don't know if you've ever noticed this.
No,
So
I don't watch Netflix, so I wouldn't know.
Well, and Netflix isn't even. I don't even know why Netflix is even the highlight here, because Netflix has like the least ads, but there's like a federal law that basically says on like cable or like broadcast TV, your commercials can't be louder, right, than the programming, but that doesn't apply to streaming services that are on the internet, obviously, and so this would kind of basically move that requirement over to that as well. But it's just funny, like how popular this bill is. Like I don't even watch a lot of shows with ads, but apparently this is like very popular, so it's pretty funny.
That's interesting.
So, yeah, so we'll see. That one's moving forward. I just voted on it in I think privacy committee or something. I can't remember the exact committee, but definitely for anyone out there that's annoyed by this, definitely probably coming your way. We'll see what the governor does on it. You probably saw the big story. I don't know. I wanted to get your thoughts on California. Basically came out and said on the transgender athlete issue, right, that California Department of Education respectfully disagrees with this. There was a federal request, essentially, that all of these schools end competition for transgender athletes and also submit official apologies to the athletes that had been impacted, the women athletes that had been impacted by it. The Department of Education said they respectfully disagree with the analysis. They will not sign the proposed resolution agreement. And so this is going to be setting up kind of probably a fight of some kind. What were your thoughts on that story, and what do you hope to see moving forward?
Well, when I saw it, the first thing they say, the White House is blocking money to education in California. No, say it for what it is. It's very simple. You just don't let boys play in girls' sports, and you get the money that you need, the funding you need for the schools. It seems like common sense, to the average person. However, we're in a whole nother... we're in a whole nother area up here in Sacramento. Right. Where common sense is just not common up here.
Oh, totally.
So no, boys should not be playing in girls' sports, no matter what. Yeah. My grandkids know, it shouldn't be happening. So I'm not sure why the push to continue. I think it's more of just trying to demonize or whatnot the administration about blocking money, or they're trying to make it seem what it's not, instead of just saying, okay, we're going to let boys play in girls' sports, so they're going to block our funding.
Yeah, and even the governor, right, in theory, recognizes this, right? I mean, not necessarily in practice, but even the governor said this is an issue of fairness. I think everyone knows it's an issue of fairness that needs to be addressed. And because it's an issue of fairness, it has Title IX implications. Right. And, this whole message that, it's the Trump administration. No, it's the law that if you violate Title IX, if there are practices going on that violate Title IX, then you lose funding. That's written into the law. So, this idea that it's, a certain administration is just ridiculous. It's actually on it's the responsibility of California to follow the law. Right. And there were a lot of things, in other administrations, on the other side of the aisle that, tried to get other states to do, and they were asked to follow the law. So it's definitely a lot of political posturing. I think that ultimately California will lose this battle in court, but I think it's good that the conversation's happening. Right. So
it'll take a while before we get there.
It will. So we'll probably know we'll know at some point. The other one, we don't have to really dive into this one, but I just wanted to mention it in case anyone has any friends out there that play fantasy sports like me. The Attorney General came out a couple weeks ago now, or maybe a week and a half ago now, and released this opinion that basically said that daily fantasy sports are illegal in California. They can no longer operate now. There's been some quick injunctions since then that said this doesn't have the force of law, and so it hasn't changed anything in the immediate term. But I didn't know if you had any opinions on that. I am pretty frustrated by it as someone who has played fantasy sports for a long time, and as as an industry that's existed for over a decade in California, for one person to just come out and say, "Well, that's technically illegal," I think it's just very frustrating to me. But
Yeah, I don't play fantasy sports. And even beforehand, I mean, I have a lot of friends who do.
Yeah.
I just paid attention to sports, but I felt like sports took me away from paying attention on what was going on.
Oh, yeah,
and
right?
So
Yeah.
I don't really watch any. I used to be the biggest sports
Really?
fanatic you can
Who were
imagine.
your teams when you
And
watched sports?
So I'm a Raiders fan.
Raiders, love it.
I'm an Angels fan.
I'm not a Raiders fan, but I get the love for the Raiders.
the Lakers, so
Yeah.
all sports, like I was right there in boxing, and so just everything. But I felt like that keeps people away from paying attention on what's going on. So I haven't watched sports for years.
That's amazing.
Yeah, for a
Wow.
long time.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, well, now the Raiders are in Vegas anyway, so
I
it's
know.
fine. Yeah. Well, so definitely something to keep your eye on for people listening. I think, obviously not fantasy sports is not the highest stakes issue in California, but I do think it is another example of California going after an industry that's been operating, very successfully, and that has a lot of customers in California. So it's very frustrating. Definitely hoping that will not stand in terms of that opinion. I did want to mention, we talked a little bit about this earlier, but the Problem Solvers Caucus released its principles on immigration a couple weeks ago. I was a part of that press conference, and we really, I thought it took us actually a couple months to even develop these principles, and we tried to keep it very simple, but a lot of the big stuff that we wanted to emphasize as, in a bipartisan way was having, the importance of a secure border.
Right.
And then also the importance of fixing our broken legal immigration system, right? And I think those are two things that I was really grateful to see we actually got some bipartisan consensus on. So we're going to be sharing those with our colleagues in Congress. Obviously, it's up to Congress to fix this, not us, but I thought that was an interesting one. I don't know if you saw any of that. So.
Yeah, I did. So it's a good step forward. So, we'll see what happens. I'm excited to see.
It's hard, right? And it's hard within the sort of current context, like to find any bipartisan sort of, consensus. And I think it'll continue to be hard. But I do think it's a worthy conversation to have. Right. So we'll see how that moves forward. Okay, so... This one was wild. So I don't know if you saw this opinion piece, and I just wanted to pull it up briefly and sort of go through it. But there was an opinion piece by Matt Rexroad. I don't know do you know Matt Rexroad?
No.
He's a consultant, he's a political consultant, and he does, a lot of work. But he wrote this. I don't work with him directly, but I know him pretty well. But he wrote this piece on the Speaker Rivas, which I thought was really fascinating. It's called "How California Assembly Speaker Robert Rivas, quote, has failed on every front." And, again, just wanted to highlight some of the interesting things that he brought up. So, he went through sort of the Rivas's tenure. Let's see. I'm trying to remember where this thing actually gets started. So he starts with SB 14, Shannon Grove's bill, right, to protect minors from from human trafficking, and how the Democratic caucus fumbled the ball on that, right? He talked about their choice to strongly oppose Proposition 36, something that was ultimately passed by 70% of voters. And then this year again with Maggie Krell's bill, AB 379, a woman in his own caucus, to have this giant fight again over protecting minors. And then what was the last one? Oh, and then you and I actually had to deal with this after that vote occurred. They then ran ads saying that
us.
you and me and a bunch of other, targeted seats actually voted against protecting minors, which was the exact opposite of what
Right.
actually happened, and just how poorly that played, in the media, and how they were quickly called out for the dishonesty. Right?
That definitely backfired on them.
It did.
It
It 100% did. So anyway, we don't have to get too far into this, but I just thought it was an interesting piece that really did call out some of the, just disorganization and just very questionable decision making, and the positions that the Democratic caucus has taken. It just seems so opposite of where the people are,
Right.
Just Californians are. And why do they continue to do that?
Well, that's what happens when you don't go into your district and you don't know your constituents.
Yeah.
Which, for the most part, a lot of our colleagues
Yeah.
on the other side of the aisle never go into their districts. So how can they
Yeah.
be on the right side of things if they don't know who is sending them to Sacramento?
Yeah. Well, and it's just tough because to me, it just strikes, and this isn't even a comment on the speaker. It's just the whole concept of opposing these bills, right? Opposing Prop 36, opposing, having a debate over whether a 16 or 17-year-old is a minor or not, or should be considered a minor under the law. It's just, all of these things are so common sense, and they don't really require polling or focus groups or anything to really know what the right thing is. And yet they still are putting so much effort into being on the other side. And it just perplexes me because it doesn't seem like a smart political move. But there's just this allegiance to these radical viewpoints that really shock me.
That was, my comments on the floor were, if you're a parent or a grandparent, I don't see how you could be for allowing something like this.
Yeah.
It didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, no, it's really frustrating. So, interesting piece. All right, let's move on. So our last thing that we'll do today, and I'll skip through some of these because we're kind of running out of time. But the last thing I was going to do, we can do our clip of the week, if that works.
Okay.
And so I'm going to play a clip from Governor Newsom. So the big story, right, that I've been hearing about, that you've probably heard about, is Governor Newsom went to South Carolina and met for a 2-day tour of the state to meet with Democrats and meet with different groups in the state. And it was a very, I think what some people described as his soft launch presidential campaign. Right. I'm going to play you one really brief clip from when he was speaking to one of the groups. And I'll just say, I'm going to ask you who you think this reminds you of or sounds like, because it really struck me when I heard it. But I'll play it and get your thoughts.
What we're experiencing is America in reverse. They're trying to bring us back to a pre-1960s world on voting rights. You know it well. Civil rights, LGBTQ rights, women's rights, and not just, access to abortion, but also access to simple reproductive care, contraceptions.
Oh, okay, Obama.
That's what I thought, right?
I was like,
Did that not sound exactly like the same?
and just the same movements. I'm like, okay.
Wasn't that wild?
That's the first time I've seen that too.
I actually watched it for the first time this morning, and I thought, this is an Obama impersonation. This is wild. Yeah. Anyway, I'm really glad you saw what I saw.
It was.
And for those on the YouTube, they'll be able to see the clip. Obviously, if they're listening on Spotify or on Apple or something, you won't be able to see it. But yeah, the movements, the hand gestures, the sort of pauses, I was like, weird.
Yeah.
That's really trippy.
That didn't even sound like him.
Right?
It didn't sound like him.
Because it didn't sound like Gavin Newsom, in my opinion. And so I just thought that was bizarre. So I'm glad that you saw what I saw. But yeah, so what do you think though? So obviously I object to a lot of what he said even in that 20-second clip. Even the women's rights issue is just so amazing to me, given this whole athlete debacle that's going on in California. But then also, so much of these, I think, just unfair statements. But I think this is kind of a preview of what his rhetoric is going to be, moving into this presidential campaign. But I mean, to me, I love the article, and we'll put it in the notes too, the AP article I was reading on his tour of South Carolina. And it's like, it's a strong indication that he's looking at running for president. It's like, oh, interesting. It's like, I think we've all known he's running for president for a very long time.
We've been saying it for, he's going to use these next years to reinvent himself.
Exactly.
That's what he's doing
That's
right there.
This is kind of the start of that. So it'll be interesting to watch. I think, they asked him, well, why are you in South Carolina? And he said something like, well, I think it's important that we get out there and we meet with Democrats in all these different states. And I thought, interesting. Like, yeah. So he didn't say he was running for president, but we kind of all know what he's up to. So, but do you think that he has a shot at the nomination? I mean, you think it's possible?
I think people don't like fake, and you can tell he's extremely fake.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, I just very inauthentic, right? And as someone that, I mean, we work with them or see them on a more regular basis. I would say the rest of the country probably doesn't see nearly as much as we see, right? But I do think that it does come off as inauthentic, and I'd be surprised if there's not someone else out there that could beat him in a primary, but we'll find out.
We will find out.
Sadly, we're getting closer and closer every day, and I'm like, I can't believe we're already talking about presidential politics. It shouldn't even be allowed yet. But anyway, all right, so we'll close out there. Did you have any final thoughts before we let you go?
No, I just want to say thank you for having me on. I think this was really a nice way to sit down and kind of get the people to know who I am and whatnot. And so I thank you.
Well, I just really appreciate you coming on and just talking a little bit about your story and kind of why you came to the legislature. And I think we have a really interesting class of people, right? Of new legislators. And I think that's important because we need fresh ideas and we need new thoughts, right? So I really appreciate you coming on and sharing some of that as well.
Thank you.
So I did have a quick announcement to make for the listeners. This will be the last podcast before summer break. So we are going to be taking a bit of a break. I need some time off from podcasting. So we'll be returning on August 20th after summer recess with a new guest and a new show. But we'll be taking a few weeks off. If you want to share ideas for future shows, you can email pointoforderpod@gmail.com. Listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Subscribe, watch, or follow on socials @pointoforderpod. And you can follow today's hosts on X, myself @Joshua_Hoover. And then I believe, Leticia, yours is @ASM Castillo. Your X profile?
Yes, ASM
Castillo. Yeah. All right.
Yes.
So follow Leticia on X and follow along with what she's working on. Leticia, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you.
And hopefully we'll have you on again.
I would love to come back on.
All right. See you later.
Thank you.